Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and do celebrity legal news. Also, join me for my pop culture chats. If you'd like to support the channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. My Venmo and Cash App is below. Thank you so much, and let's get started.
And Variety got out here and they listed in order from 1 to 54, with 54 being the least desirable and 1 being the most desirable. They ranked every MCU show and movie. And we're going to review their ranking and give commentary. Now, I will profess that I may or may not have seen all of these movies, and what I have not seen or put my eyes on, I will let you know and give my opinion from gathering from what others have talked about this show. Okay. I will come in and out on this video, so you may see my face or you may not see my face. I'll just come in and out. And with that, let's get started. Let's add this to the stage. And let's go over this ranking. Now, this ranking has been this has been from Variety, and it is authored. Hold on, y'all. It is authored by Kate Arthur, Angelique Jackson, Haley Klug, Jordan Moreau, and Adam B. Berry. So this is their rankings. They've sat down and they've decided that this is how they are going to put this out here. And we are going to go over what their rankings are and see how it may or may not balance with what we're talking about. Let me make sure that my big old head ain't always in the way. Just want to get to this first one. No, we're good. All right. So there's a couple of things that they're talking about. They're doing the rankings. Now, we're just not going to read all of this word for word, bar for bar. We are going to go over this and talk about this. They do have a spoiler alert down here that I am going to say. It says the list references major plot developments for basically every product in the MCU, which is available to stream or on Disney Plus. So if you have not seen these things and you do not want to be spoiled, I'm gonna give it to you. Here's your log off countdown. So if you are still here, you don't mind being spoiled, and we are going to continue. So let's start off. It says here that since 2008, Marvel Studios has released 37 feature films, 15 streaming series, and 2 TV specials, all of it knitted together within the unprecedented narrative tapestry known as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay? So, their number 54 is the Disney Plus series Secret Invasion, done in 2023. Now, I watched a total of 3 episodes of this show. And when I tell you I was colossally bored, I was colossally bored. It didn't do anything, and I will tell you, the pundits and my mutuals that have reviewed this show, they felt like it was a waste of characters as far as actors. With Samuel L. Jackson being in this and Don Cheadle and all of these people, they felt like the plot and everything was a total waste. That apparently there is a secret invasion in the comics, and they felt like it did nothing. It did nothing for the introduction of the Skrulls and Captain Marvel. It didn't give what it was supposed to have given. And it just seems like a waste. Now, I will tell you, this looks like it was one of those pandemic things. It was a rush to get something out on streaming. And I think in that posture, in that rush, you got subpar writing, subpar everything. And also, please remember, we're coming from in this age of Marvel when connection to the source material was heavily frowned upon. They wanted writers to come in with a fresh take. However, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have writers come in for a fresh take and they have no character development on the particular character or know how that character is supposed to respond, and the source material is the comics, that's a problem. So let's read the little blurbage that they have for this. A twisted spy killer centered around Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury should be a slam dunk, especially one boasting such an embarrassment of talent, including Olivia Colman, Don Cheadle, Ben Mendelsohn, Emilia Clarke, and Kingsley Ben-Adir. Again, they had all that talent, and this I didn't watch it past the third episode. Thor: Dark World. I don't think they knew what they wanted to do with Thor. I think that Thor Ragnarok, in my opinion, was the best of the Thor movies. Thor Ragnarok was the best of the Thor movies. I think that I don't know if they really knew what they wanted to do with Thor. I think that Thor was just thrown in there because he was an Avenger and they needed an origin story, and plus the ladies liked the Dark World, but the Dark World wasn't one of the better of the things, so I would agree with the placement with that. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, I would probably put Thor: Love and Thunder here, and I would give this a little bit higher ranking. However, for them at the time, again, it has everything to do with the writing. For them at that time, that they were looking to have Kang introduced as the big bad, it looked crazy for him to be in this show and for him to be the big bad of the threat, for him to be defeated by ants. Also, it didn't make any sense. I could not understand why Kang was placed within this, other than the fact you're talking about the quantum realm, and that was too loose of a spot to have him. They would have done better creating a different villain. I think Michelle Pfeiffer's character as the White, as far as the acting went in regards to Michelle Pfeiffer and Jonathan Majors, I think that they did well. They acted well against each other. I really truly do. I think that they did very good acting against each other. However, I think the storyline and the plot and all that other stuff didn't do right. It didn't make any sense for him to have been demolished by the ants. They would have done better to me with this storyline if they would have made MODOK the villain, the face of the villain. That should have been the villain of the whole thing, and then we would have learned. But behind him, pulling and pushing the strings, were Kang. Like there was another big bad, and then MODOK comes in, and then he becomes the bigger, worser big bad, and then they would have liberated. But he would have been in the background. He would have been in the background. He would have been this looking to see what's going on because he wants to get out of the quantum realm. And once he figured out that they figured out how to get out of the quantum realm, then he should have followed them into the real world. I think that for me would have been a better plot. But for him to be demolished by ants, I'm sorry, that's just foolishness. Moon Knight. Again, when we talk about this multiverse sagas and stuff like that, every show in the MCU should have been pulled up upon this multiverse. Moon Knight, Blade, and all of those characters, Midnight, isn't the Midnight Suns? But all those supernatural type powers, even I even think on some level Doctor Strange. And also I even think on some levels of Black Panther. They could have been they should have been pulled out, and they should not have been part of the multiverse saga. Now the problem that I have with what was it? Phase 4, Phase 5, is that they were trying to build this thing about the multiverse. They didn't know what they were doing. Every character shouldn't have been part of that multiverse. I do believe that shows like this, and I'm be all fairness, they did not need a live action show for this. This is one of those Disney Plus shows that I think, along like how DC does it, that should have just been an animated show. It would have been a great animated show. You would have been able to pull more depth at it. You could have done it at 25 minutes and had like 10 to 20 episodes, and you could have fleshed this whole story out. I liked it for what it's worth. What's his name? Oscar Isaacs did a good job, but honestly, this show should have been, in my opinion, just an animated show. It was good, but it didn't have they already knew that they weren't going to do a part 2, so I don't know why you just didn't settle it at the thing. You could have done all of this in an animated show. Thor Love and Thunder. Again, I would switch places. This would have gone lower on the list. So where Ant-Man was, that's where I would have put Love and Thunder, and then I would have put Ant-Man in number 50, because this was just this was stupid. I'm just telling you. And the villain Gore, the God Butcher, he was wasted. I don't see the Jane Foster. I just nothing made sense to me. Nothing made sense. Nothing. The Incredible Hulk. Was this with Mark Ruffalo? This is with Mark Ruffalo, right? The second entry, it came out in June 2008, 5.5 week release of Iron Man. So this is when Edward Norton played Bruce Banner. Okay. I thought it was okay. I'm not for or against this ranking. It was an okay movie to me. Iron Man 2. Yeah, okay. This is with Mickey Rourke. I don't have any problems with this placement. Iron Man 2, 2010. Echo, 2024. Again, one of those things. I did not set eyes on Echo. I was not invested. It wasn't anything to me. This was coming off of Daredevil and all of that. I think Echo could have been an animated series. It wasn't necessary to put her in a whole movie. She could have been an animated series. The Eternals. I think with Moonlight, and all of those, I think it is. I thought Eternal was a beautifully shot movie. I just didn't, it just didn't fit anywhere, and then they never made big references to the movie. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you got Tiamat, who is a what do you call him? Because I know he's a celestial, but he wasn't born all the way. But but no one is mentioning in the MCU since that time that you see this big celestial hanging out of the water or anything. They haven't referenced anything about this movie in the thing. Like I said, it was really too long. And then at the ending, you think you hear Blade and you hear some other people. Was the Whitman guy? And then there's nothing. Blade didn't come out, so there was nothing to again tie this movie to the any other thing in the franchise. Captain America Brave New World, I didn't watch it. I honestly, and this is just me from Pam Entertainment TV, and you know how I tell y'all, these are my opinions. These are my opinions. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was so much better. Like I said, I liked him as Falcon. Visually, he's not pleasing as Captain America to me. He should have stayed Falcon. And I'm sorry, Anthony Mackie is just not. He should have stayed Falcon. And I could see a whole story because if you watch the Thunderbolts, you see that Bucky became a senator. I would have loved that to have been part of the storyline, him staying as Falcon, and that be part of the storyline for Falcon and the Winter Soldier Part 2. How Bucky, well, we'll get to that when we see that. But I just wasn't impressed. If they weren't going to bring back Steve Rogers, then they should have just let this die. He did not need to become Captain America, in my opinion. He should have stayed Falcon. Now I'm surprised because I did like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I thought they did good. The problem that I had with Falcon and the Winter Soldier is because this came out during in the height of the pandemic, and it had things to do with the viruses and stuff like that. And they were not bold enough to continue through that. They should have done that. They should have been bold enough, or they should have waited a year before they presented this show. Had they waited a year before they presented the show, and they didn't the flag smashers and all of that, if they didn't dilute their stories because they were scared to tell those stories in the middle of the pandemic, they should have waited and then put the strength behind that story, and this show would have been that much better. I like the show, but it could have been better if they would have been bold and not kowtow. Oh, we don't want people to be upset because we did the pandemic. If they didn't kowtow to that, I think that this show would have been stronger. They could have gone into a second season showing us how Bucky became a senator and all of this other stuff. They had the opportunity to do that, and they didn't do that. This was a wasted opportunity, but it was a decent show. Not mad at the ranking. What if 2021, 2024? Not mad at the ranking. Avengers Age of Ultron, not mad at the ranking. Werewolf by Night, again, Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, The Eternals. You could have had some part of Black Panther. All of that could have kind of tied into all of that. But again, you're so focused on the MCU as this multiverse saga that you've missed opportunities for this. This should have been a bigger opportunity for you all. Thor, not mad at the ranking. She-Hulk. She-Hulk is another one. See, She-Hulk was one of my favorite comic characters. And this upset me and my homegirls because they had so much meat on the bone for this character that they wanted to make her basically eye candy and a hoe. They had so much opportunity and so much to provide more depth for her, and they didn't. Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'm not upset with the ranking. Fantastic Four, I would have rated this a little higher. I would say, in my opinion, maybe because there wasn't as much action going on. Could be the point, but let's see what they had to say. The wow factor was on this the world itself, that retro futuristic yeah, let's skip right here. But the film's wow factor rests heavily on Kasha Farani's impeccable retro future production design and Michael Giacchino's soaring score. while much of the plot and action unfolded in rushed in montage. It's just painfully evident that several storylines, especially Ben Grimm's, and I said that in my review, had been cut to the bone, and only Vanessa Kirby's Sue Storm really comes through as a fully realized present. As an introduction, it lives up to its subtitle, no more, no less. I said that I would wholeheartedly agree with that, and I would say I'm okay with the placement. Only because again they're 37. Because I thought that if they would have fleshed out that Ben Grimm story, you talk about pulling from the heartstrings, talking about family, and then his relationship to Franklin would have it would have been so much better. And also, if we would have, I did like a Johnny storyline where he wasn't just seen as the heartthrob and the womanizer. I did like that part because I did like his contribution to show that he was able to figure out the linguistics of the Silver Surfer. But I really wish they would have pulled in on Reed, the way Reed Richards thinks and how he thinks and how deviant that he thinks at some points in time. I think that they should have fleshed that more out. But again, this I'm okay with this placement. Black Widow. I didn't watch Black Widow, so I'm not for or against this placement. Iron Man 3. I'm surprised this is ranked as high as it is. I'm just gonna say that. I think people liked Iron Man 3, but I didn't like that. Captain Marvel was okay. I'm not upset or pleased with the ranking. The Marvels, I thought it's a decent placement. I'm okay with that. Miss Marvel, I like this show. I really did like this show. I really truly like this show. Uh, I'm not mad at the ranking. Ant Man, any and all the Ant-Mans I wish was ranked a little lower, all of them. Like I said, Ant-Man Quantumania, the acting between Michelle Pfeiffer and Jonathan Majors is what kept it someplace, but all the Ant-Mans could have been lower ranked and I'd have been all right. Ironheart, that's an interesting ranking. I would have had her ranked at where they had Fantastic Four ranked and had Fantastic Four right there, if we're talking about it. This was a decent showing. This is a decent showing. I did a review on that. There was a couple of things that I did not like. Other than the fact that how is it that you over there in Wakanda and they don't break you off a little change or something? Doctor Strange, I'm not upset with that ranking. Thunderbolts, I'm not upset because Thunderbolts was a decent movie. I just recently watched it, probably maybe 2 days ago. I just watched it 2 days ago, and so it's a decent movie. I'm not mad at it. Again, I would have loved to have seen how he became a senator, and I would have wished that they, instead of giving Sam the Black Panther, the Captain Marvel mantle. I wish he would have stayed walking in the Winter Soldier one more episode so we could kind of see Bucky in his healthiness, on his healing journey, as the girls say it. Didn't watch Daredevil. I'm not for or against this placement. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Not for or against this ranking because Spider-Man always kills, so I'm pretty much okay with that. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I enjoyed that movie, so I'm not mad at the placement. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I feel like it should have been, in my opinion, somewhere close to the top, in the top 20. meaning like 20 or 19ish. Guardians of the Holiday Special. I think Guardians 3 should have been higher than the Holiday Special, honestly, but it was still good, but I just think it should have been higher. Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm not upset about that show in ranking. Now, who put Hawkeye way up here? Decent show, but 21? No. No, no, no. I don't agree with that. Let's continue. Black Panther Wakanda Forever. AKA Two Funerals and a Bastard. The way I disliked this show because it was unnecessary. Honestly, this show could have been at number 54. I'm just being real. The way I dislike this show, the way I dislike the fact that this show came about because people made decisions while they were grieving. This was unnecessary. And this, to me, in my personal opinion, was the most disrespectful show for you to take a man's death and incorporate it into the character that he had for the show. This was the most disrespectful thing that I could see because of the implications that it's had throughout the MCU. Just because this show exists, this is why the MCU, because until you do right by Black Panther, everything else is just going to go to hell. I don't like this. I think that this should not have been in the top 20. This should be down towards in the 30s, honestly. Captain America, the First Avengers, not mad at the placement. I enjoyed that. Shang-Chi, not mad at it. I enjoyed it as well. Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't think I would have had it in the top 20. I think for me it would have been like somewhere in the 30s, but okay. Agatha All Along. It was different. It was a good Disney Plus outing. I'm not mad at it. The Avengers, not mad at that placement. Yes, this is with the spell. Okay, yes. This is a good placement for Spider-Man. Because like I said, the Spider-Mans are going to rank higher because, again, whoever did the storylines, if you're talking about in the MCU, whoever was doing the storylines for Spider-Man, they had much reverence for the character. So they did not disappoint, in my opinion, with that. Captain America Civil War, one of my favorite movies. This was one of my favorites. I would have ranked it maybe in the top 10, but this was one of my favorite movies. Avengers Infinity Wars probably would have been in my top 10, but this is good. This is good. Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, not mad at this ranking. Loki series, top 10. Loki, the series, Loki series would be in my top 10. The Loki series would be in my top 10. Thor Ragnarok, Thor Ragnarok would be in my top 5. I thoroughly enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. Iron Man, not mad at the placement. Spider-Man No Way Home. Again, all the Spider-Man movies are usually going to be up high. X-Men, not mad at the ranking here. Let's see what they got for top 5. This right here, this movie right here is my top 1. Captain America, the Winter Soldier. When I tell you how many times I've watched this till I think I might be a tad upset. This would have been my number 1 movie. This just would have been my number 1 movie. The rewatchability of this movie is mwah. I love Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Love it. WandaVision, top 10. It wouldn't have cracked my top 5, but it may have been top 10. I did love the risks that they took to make this movie. I love the way they visually expressed her grief and possibly some mental illness. I really love visually how they worked that out into TV shows. I thought that, to me, that was just brilliant. That was brilliant. It wasn't all that wham bam, thank you ma'am action. This was a very good outing for the TV series. I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Guardians of the Galaxy. It wouldn't have cracked my the Guardians of the Galaxy. I do like the movies. They would have been in my top 20, but they wouldn't have been like in my top 10. Black Panther. Not mad at that placement because, like I said, Winter Soldier, Captain America and the Winter Soldier would have been my number 1, and Black Panther would have been my number 2, and Avengers Endgame would have been my number 3 with Infinity War. So yes, so my top 3. I'm not mad at this placement, but my top 1 would have been Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Black Panther, Avengers Endgame, then Avengers Infinity. And so I'm not mad at this. This is number 1. I'm I'm not mad at this. To review this variety, I'm not mad at your list. There's just a couple of tweaks that I would have done. Like I said, there were some things that I did not watch, so I wasn't going to make any commentary on it. But I'm not mad at this. I think that I'm going to take these 54 movies and figure out my own little my top 54. And those that I did not watch, I'm going to put them down at the bottom because of the fact that I did not watch, or I'm going to take them out of the running because I don't want to rank them when I know that I haven't watched them. If I watched a part of it and I didn't like it, I consider that a watch. But I think that I will do this. I'm not mad at this variety. Shout out to you all. Thank you for this because this was quite enjoyable for me to do this. To rank these MCUs and to see your ranking, because now I'm encouraged to do my own ranking. So what do you all think? How do you think Variety did with their ranking of the MCU movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Did you like their ranking? Do you think that their rankings are, where would you tweak it at? Let me know down in the comments. All right, people, we do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye-bye.